Hello everyone, this is Nagarajan. Welcome to QA Coding Express channel. In today's video, we are going to discuss about the Git commands. Before we deep dive into Git commands, let's understand first what is version control, how to use Git to implement the version control, what is GitHub, why do we need that? Let's begin. Version control is the practice of tracking and managing the changes to the source code. It actually makes the collaboration process easier. It mainly resolves the conflicts with the source code, and all our source codes resides in a centralized repository. So this helps in recording the changes to a file or a bunch of files. Any specific changes can be reverted back to a specific commits. There are different version control tools out there in the market, like Git, Subversion, CVS, Mercurial, Bazaar. Let's relate the version control theory with the real use case. In a product company, multiple teams are working on a product development. So each team is developing a new module. So team A is working on a module A, team B is working on a module B, team C is working on a module C. Assume if team A completes a module A and pushes all the changes to the Git repo. Now the team B can download the changes from the Git repo and work accordingly. Not only team B, team A, team B, team C, any team can download the source codes commonly from the Git repo and they can go ahead and make the changes. So this makes the collaboration easier. Let's talk about another use case. It's a most important use case, code conflict use case. Let's assume team B completes a module B and did some changes to the module A and pushes all the changes to the remote repo. In the very next day, team A is working on some changes. He wanted to push all the changes to the remote repo. In this case, team A should need to pull in all the changes done by the team B. What happens without pulling the changes? If the team A tries to push the changes to the remote repo, obviously there will be a code conflict. We usually call this as a merge conflict. This will be discussed in detail while working with the Git commands. Let's talk about the third scenario. In team A itself, multiple people might be working on a single file or a set of files. These file changes can be tracked in the form of versions. In the form of various commits, so that any specific changes can be reverted to a specific commit. This is all about version control. Now let's move on to Git. Git is a free and open source distributed version control system. It is the most commonly used version control system. Git commands helps to track the changes made to a file or a set of files. Version reverting option is available in the Git. Any specific changes can be reverted back to a particular commit. Multiple people can commit and merge the changes into a single repository. This makes the collaboration process easier. The most important feature available in the Git is branch management. I'll give you a gist of it. Let's take the previous use case. As I stated in the previous example, in a product company, multiple teams are working on a product. Each team is working on a different module. Team A takes care of module A, team B takes care of module B. Source code pertaining to module A resides in a particular branch. Let's call that branch as feature 1. Source code pertaining to module B resides in a different branch. Let's call that branch as feature 2. If both the teams A and B completes the whole work and they are planning to push all the changes, branch changes feature 1 and feature 2 can easily be merged into a main branch of the product. This is all about branching management. Let's move on to GitHub. GitHub is an open source hosting service. It provides the cloud storage for source code. GitHub's interface is user-friendly. Additionally, anyone can sign up and host a remote repository for free. It also manages the Git repositories. All our source codes will be stored inside the Git repositories. All our local changes will be pushed to the remote repository. which is nothing but the Git repository. We have so many Git hosting services like Bitbucket, GitLab, Perforce, Azure DevOps, AWS Code Commit. Out of these, GitHub is the most popular one. You need to understand the main difference between Git and the GitHub. Git is nothing but a software, or you can call it as a command line utility, helps to track and manage the source code changes. GitHub is a hosting service for managing the Git repositories. With this, we are done with the theories. Enough is enough. It's time to play around with the Git commands. Let's begin with the Git installation. Go to Google, just enter Git downloads. There is a link, gitsem.com. Just click on the downloads link. We have different kinds of download based on OS. Let's go ahead with the Windows download. Just click on it. Git is being downloaded here. Once it is downloaded, just click on the exe. Just click on the next button. Next. We have two different options. Use Git from Git Bash only or Git from the command line. Let's go with the second option. Just click on next button. Here we have two different options again. Windows style or Unix style. Let's proceed with Windows style. Just click on the next button. Git installation is pretty simple. Finally, click on this install button to complete the installation. Git is now installed on our machine. Let's check the version of it. Let me open up the command prompt. Okay, let me maximize it. Just type Git version. It shows 2.33.1. It is now available on our machine. Okay, let's deep dive into Git commands. Let's start right from creating a local folder itself. Okay, let me open up the. So this is the path C Nagarajan Git demo. Here we'll try to create a local folder. Web test automation. Just create a folder like this. Okay, and just navigate onto this particular path. Okay. So we are into this path. Now I'm trying to convert this particular local folder as a Git repository. For doing that, we'll have to use Git init. So this command helps us to create a empty Git repository. So that's what happened now. .git, the file folder is being created here. So this file folder helps to track the changes made to this local repository. So that is the purpose of this .git. So what we have done is we have just converted this local folder into a local repository. Let's check the status of it. It is now pointing on the branch main. No commits performed yet. We have not made any changes. So let's create one file into this product.txt. Sorry, product.txt file. So this contains product details. So let me write some dummy content. So I've just type the product name as the shop watch. Okay, I'm just saving the file. I've just created a file called product. Let me put git status. Now it is saying there was some file added to this particular local folder, product.txt. That is a local repository. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to add this file to the staging area. So that is why it is showing it is on untracked files. Let's add this using git add. So if I put git add dot, it's a period, right? So this adds all the files to the staging area. Right now we have only one file, product.txt. So obviously it would have added that file to the staging area. Let me put git status. This file is being added. The changes had to be committed. Let me clear the command prompt. I'll put again. This file is being added here, so changes had to be committed, right? So now if I want to unstage the product.txt file change, let's do that using git rm -catch product.txt, that file name. So what it does is it removes that file from the staging area. Let me put git status again. It says this file is again untracked file. So you can give git add product.txt. You can mention the file name, or else you can use period, that is dot operator. So dot operator, it adds all the files present on that local repository. If you want to particularly specify the file name, you can give like this. Okay, we have added this file again. Let's put git status now. The changes are yet to be committed. So we'll have to perform git commit. Okay, let me clear it again. Git status. The changes had to get committed. Let me put git commit. So what it does is, now the file product.txt is added to the staging area. We are going to record the changes to the local repository. That is, the changes made to the staging area will get recorded to our local repository. For that, we'll have to do the commit. Let me do this. We're going to add this file, right? Product.txt is added to the repo. Okay, let me put a commit. Now we could see this file is being added to the repo, right? Okay, let's see the log of it. Okay, when you put git log, it shows us history of the commits. You can also put git log -- one line. It shows us the commits in the short form. Let's move on to git push. So far we have done the changes on the local repository. We haven't talked about remote repository. Okay, so if I put git push, it says, it throws some error. If you could see here, either specify the URL from the command line or configure a remote repository using git remote add. So we'll have to create a remote repository. Let's move on to Chrome. Okay, I've just opened up the github.com. As we talked earlier, GitHub is a Git hosting service. I already signed up an account with this. Okay, let's create a new repository. Okay, just click on this new repository link, take you to this page. Now, just type something like this, web test automation. This is the repository name that I'm giving. If you want, you can add the description here, or else you can leave it since it's an optional field. Here, there are two options, public and private. You can create a public repository, or else you can create a private repository. If we create it as a public repository, it will be accessible to everyone. If we create it as a private repository, it will be accessible to only specific persons. You can check this checkbox, add a readme file. So this will create a readme file for us, where you can give more description about your project. You can add .gitignore file as well. So in this file, we can specify the list of files that need not be tracked on the Git repository. Just select this and you can specify the template of it. For now, we can specify Java. Okay, you can go ahead and create a repository like this. Now we have created the remote repository in the name of web test automation, and it had created a .gitignore file and readme.md file. Okay, so we have done with this remote repository creation. Just click on this code, wherein you can see https ssh github CLI. Just copy this link. You can click on this square icon. Just copy that link. Go here. We tried to perform a git push. It was throwing an error. It was asking us to add a remote URL. So we are going to add the remote URL here. Git remote add origin. I'm going to give the remote directory. So what this command does is, it binds the local repository with the remote repository. Now our both the local repository and remote repository got connected. Just type git remote -v. It will show the binding. This origin is binded with the remote URL using fetch and push. Now the local repository is connected with the remote repository. Let's try to perform a push. When I type this git push command, right, what it does actually, we are trying to push the changes from our local repository to the remote repository, but it is going to throw an error. Let's solve the error one by one. If you could see here, it is throwing some error, right? So the current branch main has no upstream branch. Right now it is pointing on a branch main. That is, I'm talking about the local repository. We'll try to map the local repository branch with a remote repository branch. Okay, there also if you could see, it is showing on the main branch. Okay, let's type git push --- set upstream origin main. Now it is throwing an error saying updates were rejected because the remote contains work that you do not have locally. This is usually caused by another repository pushing to the same ref. You may want to first integrate the remote changes. Okay, now what it is saying here is, here we have two files, right? .gitignore and readme.md. In the local repository, we have not pulled the changes from the remote repository. So that is why it is saying there are some changes available on the remote repo. We'll do one thing, we'll try to pull the changes from the remote repository, but again it will throw some error. Let's solve the error one by one. Okay, now it is throwing an error saying that on which branch you are trying to connect. Okay, so for that we'll have to set this. Okay, let me type this command: git branch --- set upstream -2 equal to origin as main. Now what we are trying to do here is we are going to map our local branch with remote main branch. Okay, now the branch main set up to track remote branch main from origin. So we have set the branch changes. Okay, now let's try to do the git pull. Again, we are going to see some errors. Yeah, it is throwing an error refusing to merge unrelated histories. So we'll try to pull the unrelated history as well using this particular command. So this command git pull -allow -unrelated histories helps to pull all the changes from the remote repository. Okay, let me show you the local repository. See, we have .git and product only. Okay, here you have .gitignore and remote readme.md file. Okay, let me enter this command. See, now if you could see these two files, right, readme.md and .gitignore file is being added to the local repository. Okay, so that is done. Now let's go ahead and give git pull. Now it has to say everything up to date. Already up to date. So all the changes that are available on the remote repository are now available in our local machine, local repository. Okay, that is done. Now if you put git status, right, it says our branch is ahead of origin by main by 2 commits. So we have left out with 2 commits. Those changes should be pushed to the remote repository. So let's do that. When you put git push, it will push all the changes from our local repository to the remote repository. Let's see that. Now we have pushed all the changes. Let's put git status. So our branch is up to date with origin/main, nothing to commit. So whatever changes that we have done in our local machine, it should be available here. Okay, it is not showing the changes product.txt. Let me refresh the page so that you'll be seeing the changes. Now that product.txt got added to this remote repository. So we are done with the Git push. Let's understand the Git workflow in the form of pictorial view. So here we have different components, I could say, working directory, staging area, local repository, remote repository. Initially, we have created a local folder that is a working directory. We have created some files. We have added those files to the staging area using git add, and we have recorded all the changes to the local repository using git commit. We pushed all our local changes from the local repository into our remote repository. This diagram helps us to understand the quick workflow using git add, git commit, and git push. So that's all about that. Let's talk about another use case. As a developer, as a tester, if you are going to a different company or to a different team, definitely that team or that company should have maintained a separate remote repository. So what we have done so far, we have created a local repository and then we have pushed all the changes to the remote repository. That is one way of pushing the changes to the remote repository. But in an ideal scenario, every companies, they usually maintain the remote repository. We are supposed to get the copy of it. We'll see how we will do that. Let me clear the terminal. Now we are going to see the Git Clone Command. Let me first delete this folder which we have created. For that, I have to close this command prompt. Okay, I just close that. Let me open up the command prompt again. Okay, let's navigate into this particular this thing. Okay, we've navigated into this particular Git demo folder. Okay, let's try to clone this. Just go to this github.com and just copy this URL. Come here, just let me maximize it. Git clone. Okay, so in this file path, okay, I'm trying to clone this. Now it had cloned this entire remote repository. Okay, fine. Let's go into this web folder. Okay, now put the git status command. So we are on a, it is now pointing on a branch main. It is up to date with origin/main. Now we'll do one thing, we'll put on git pull again, but there is no need, but just to cross check, I'm just putting git pull to verify whether all the changes from the remote repository are being pushed here. It is done already up to date. Okay, this is also done. Let me create a new file into this accessories. Okay, this is an accessory file, exchange one. Okay, I've just added this file. Okay, now let me go into this and let me put git status. See, it is now showing this file is untracked file. Let's add this file, git accessories .txt. I've added the file. Let me clear the terminal so that will give you the better visibility. Okay, now the file is being added and to the staging area. Now we are going to commit this change. Git commit -m accessories. I'm just giving the dummy text. Accessories take change. We have done with the commit. Git status. Yet to push the changes to the remote repo. That we'll do it later. So our branch is ahead of origin by one commit. Okay. Now I'll do one thing. Let me change this as 2. Okay. But I'm not going to put a commit. Let's put git status. So We haven't done any commit. We have just added a text. If I want to see the uncommitted changes on a particular file, for that, so gitdiff is the command that helps to track the uncommitted changes on a particular file. This is the accessories text change to is the latest change that we have done. So that is what it is trying to show the difference. So that's about git diff. Let's commit this change as well. Okay, let me put git status now. So changes not stage for commit. So we'll have to add this particular change. Okay. Put git status. Okay. Now changes it to be committed. Let's have the commit as well. Accessories change to. Okay, there were 2 commits happened so far. Okay, git status. Your branch is ahead of origin by main by 2 commits. So we have not pushed the changes yet, right? So that is why it is displaying that message. Okay, let me clear up the terminal. Now let me put git log. See, we have 2 different changes. Git log helps us to show the list of commits happened on this particular repository. Now my requirement is to undo the changes on the existing commit. I mean, I just wanted to revert the change. Okay, using git revert you can do that. Just copy this commit ID, just place it here, just click enter. Now go to this file, accessories, it got changed. It has done, previously it was showing 2, now it got reverted to 1. Okay. Now let me create a new file, user manual. I'm putting a dummy content here, user manual text, something like this. Okay. So let's do with git status. It is showing. Okay, let's add all the changes now. Git commit -m. Okay, user manual changes. It's done. Git status. Everything is clean. Git log -1 line. Let's put this. Okay, user manual changes been showing here. We have different commits showing with the help of git log. Okay, that is fine. Now let's see the git reset. Okay, so git reset helps to undo the changes to the specific point. I'll show you. Git reset -odd. I'm putting the specific commit ID here. Okay, let's move on to this. Look at these files. Okay, now let me put this command. Sorry, I'll have to add one hyphen here. Now all the changes that we have done so far, it's gone. Okay, now the head is being pointed at this particular commit 1355866. If you are in an emergency situation that if you want to revert to a specific commit, or if you want to revert the changes, then git reset and git revert will be very useful. So that's about that. So let's see git config. So this is a command that helps to set the git configuration values on a project global level or at a local level. You can see the config list, something like this. So you can set the username, email, password, something like this. Let me show you. Git config -global input user dot password. You can set like this. Testing 1 2 3. 4. When I set like something like this, it will be assigned to this particular user.password. We had previously test 21 to $. Now I've changed it to testing 1234. Let me put git config --- list. Now the changes are being done here. Testing 1234. See, when you set these configuration values globally, you don't need to specifically pass the password every time. So that is why we set this configuration values on a global level. You can set it at a local level also. So if you don't pass this --- global, so this sets the configuration values on a local level, so that applies to that particular local repository. If you are setting the Git configuration values on this particular repository, then that will be available within this particular repository only. If you are setting it via --- global, then it applies to the system. So that's about git config. Let's see the git show command. It basically gives us the metadata and content changes. That's all. So you could see here author, the date, and the line of changes on this particular file, right? So it helps to describe the metadata changes. So that you can visualize the changes on a specific file. Let's move on to Git Branch. So just to list the branches. So far we have only one branch. You can also put Git Branch --- list. So let's create a new branch. Okay. So Git Branch Dev. So this command helps to create a new branch. So we are creating a dev branch now. Let me put the Git branch. It will list 2 branches, dev 1, main. Okay. We can also delete the branch by using this command, git branch -d dev. When I put this, the branch will get deleted. Okay. So let me put it again. Git branch. We have only one branch. Let me clear it. We have another way of creating a branch. Let me show that. Git Checkout -d dev. So what this command does is, this will create a branch and also checks out the branch. Now we are currently pointing on a dev branch. Let me put git status, git branch. Git checkout helps to create a branch and also it checks out the branch. Let me create a new file. Hello. Okay. Okay. Now put git status. We have added on file hello.txt. Let me add this file. Let's have a commit. Let me commit this change. hello.txt file is added. Git status. We are on a branch dev. Okay. Now let's try to see if we had created a file under this branch. Now we'll check out to main branch. If you would have cleanly watched this folder, that hello.txt got disappeared. Why? Now it is pointing to main branch. See, now I'll show you. Git checkout dev. When I type this command, that hello.txt file will appear now. See? Okay. Why? Because it is switched to branch dev. Okay, this is pointing to dev branch. That is why this file is now appearing. Now when I swap it to main branch, then that file will get disappeared. Okay. Now we have created a file hello on dev branch. I just wanted to merge the changes onto this main branch also. How do we do that? Okay, now currently we are in main branch, right? So git merge dev. This merge command helps to merge the dev changes into our main branch. Now all our branch dev changes are being pushed to our main branch. So this is all about branching. With this, we've come to an end of the session. So far, we've learned the basic commands of Git. I hope you liked the video. In our upcoming video, we'll try to learn the advanced commands of Git. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.